is worthy to be praised. Praise the Lord. Jesus Christ is King. Confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing today? I hope you can hear me. Got an external mic on. I'm hoping that this is going to be loud enough. Here I am at Yonge and Dundas Square, downtown Toronto. This is, I guess, considered the heart of Toronto. And this is a story that is very, very difficult. It's brutal. It's heart-wrenching. There's going to be some details that are really difficult to hear. I'm going to leave some things out. Now, I've known about this story for a long time, and I now recently read a book about the whole case. I don't bring notes with me when I do my films about anything. I just go by what I can remember. So I may leave some things out, not purposely, or sometimes purposefully leave something out for brevity, or just because maybe the details are just a little too much. But yeah, this is Yonge and Dundas in Toronto, and as you can see, it's if it was sunnier, it'd be packed right now. It's summer, it's August, it's a hot, rainy day. But back in the 70s, this was a brutal area. It was like a red light district almost. There was sex clubs, strip clubs, massage parlors, all up and down here. And late night record shops. If you know the band, the Bare Naked Ladies, they have a song, Brian Wilson. Drove downtown in the rain, 9:30 on a Tuesday night, just to check out the late night record shops. We're talking about a few record shops that were right up there. Sam the Record Man and A&A's. That's what that song's about. Well, the beginning. And that's what we did as teenagers. I guess teenagers in the 80s and in the 90s, that's what we did. We'd drive up and down Yonge Street, back and forth. And we'd go to the record shops, but we drive up and down cruising. And you can see behind me, although Sam the Record Man is gone, no longer, they've preserved the signs right there at the top of that building. So those remain. Those used to be just a little bit north of here, on the east side of Yonge Street. So on July 28th, 1977, a young boy named Emanuel Jaques was a Shoeshine boy. And him, his older brother, Luciano, and his friend Shane came right here, and I'm going to show you where, to shine shoes, to make some money, to help out their family, and to get money to spend on things. They're kids. He was 12 years old, 4'5", 80 pounds. Tiny. He's only 12. He lived over in the Regent Park area on Yonge Street. Now his home is no longer there. It's been torn down for a new development. I was going to take you there, but there's nothing there. The house is not there anymore. But on that summer day, he was at this corner shining shoes, and it was not a particularly money-making day for him. He could make some good money, but that day, not so much. And then a man approached them. Right here. The man's name is Saul Betesh, and he approached him at this corner right here, right across the street, right where the Adidas is. That's where he had his Shoeshine equipment set up, right there. Now this area is a lot different, as I've stated. There's an old Mr. Submarine here. which is a Canadian fast food establishment. I bet across the street, this is a park now, but I bet a lot of people remember, I think it was a jean store that was always going out of business for like 20 years. And it was right here. Like they had going out of business sale signs for about 20 years. It took a long time. But right here at this corner, this is where little Emmanuel had his little shop set up. And Betesh approached him and offered him $35 to help him move some equipment. First, he had the boys polish his shoes and some work boots he had in a bag. He was a rail worker, an iron worker, I believe, working on the CN Tower, which usually you can see from everywhere in Toronto, but it's blocked by these large buildings right here. So he's approached right here and offered $35 for the three boys to come move photography equipment. Now, I should say that this gentleman had a very, very terrible history with his family. His parents locked the door at night to keep him out of their bedroom because they were afraid for their lives. He poured nail polish into his babysitter's ear while she was asleep when he was only about 5 years old. The neighborhood kids feared him. He was awful. He had been in and out of prison as well, and he had an appetite for younger boys. And so he'd already done some pretty terrible things to just some young boys at the place I'm going to show you. And then he approached little Emmanuel here. Now the two older boys thought that was a great deal, but thought it was a little suspicious, so they ran across the street, just up here, to some payphones to call their parents to ask. The parents said no. What happened was they came back, Emmanuel was gone. Now they could see him in the distance walking away with the man. And there's been conflicting reports because I just recently learned that Saul Betesh originally first took Emmanuel to a Howard Johnson's restaurant to eat. And the only Howard Johnson's I can figure out that used to be around was up this way, north. But the place where they committed the act against young Emmanuel is down this way. So I'm not sure which way they saw him going off in the distance. And they called out his name, but as you can see, it's a busy area. It was busy back then, just as busy. And he didn't hear them. He didn't hear their warnings and saying, come back. So afterwards, they ran and told their parents right away. And the parents, freaked out, of course, called the police, who jumped right into action. But by then it was too late. And right here is where the building once stood. Right where that Vans flagship store is. Now, that's 245 Yonge Street. You can look to your right, the Burger King. People say that that was the building, but it's not. You see, that is an old building. The Vans store, the Foot Locker store, brand new buildings, both of them. Older building, older building, older building. Those are original buildings from I don't know how long ago, but they would have been around in 1977. So they tore down the building where Emanuel Jaques was brutally murdered. Right there. Now, another part of the story was there's four men. There's Betesh, Kribs, the two main culprits, and then two other men with the last name of Woods and Gurner. And Kribs, Gurner, and Woods were employed at the strip club as enforcement. And what I was told, or was led to believe, was one of them held the door open, which was Gurner, to let them in. But upon further investigation about the story, is he actually took him around back up the fire escape to the apartment above the strip club. So from what I can tell, they did not go through the front door. But what happened up there is absolutely horrifying. I can't state enough This is a 12-year-old boy, 4'5", 80 pounds. 4 men. Take a look at these men. I hate to include their picture, but take a look at these men right now. That's terrifying as an adult, what they look like. They look like monsters, and they were. So Kribs and Betesh gradually had Emmanuel take off his clothes with the promise of money, and they're photographing him, which they had done before to other boys, and brutalized other boys there, but did not murder them. And then, and this is the hard part, but they repeatedly raped him over and over for 12 hours into the next day. Now, they were trying to figure out what to do with him. They gave him a Valium with orange. He was screaming and putting up a fight like no other boy had. Little Emmanuel was fighting for his life. They gave him a Valium with orange juice. Didn't calm him down. They tried to inject him with Valium. They couldn't get a vein. His body was covered with puncture marks. And finally, what they did was Kribs held him by his legs, his little tiny legs, while Betesh drowned him in the sink. They had tried to strangle him, but he couldn't finish the job. Then they were going to smother him, couldn't finish the job. So they decided to drown him. And that's how Emmanuel Jaques died. So if this were the original building, the doorway would have been right here. Up to the 3rd floor. And still about the same size as the original building. But like I said, as you can tell from the building to its immediate left, if you're facing out from the building, to the south of it, and then just one other building up, those are originals. And for the longest time, driving by up and down, knowing about this case, I did think it was the Burger King building because it was retro to its time, but no, it was here. And now I'm going to take you around back to the alleyway where he would have led Emmanuel Jaques through the back of the building, up the fire escape. I think it's important for the story just to show that alleyway. So right here, this is the same alleyway with a lot of the original buildings still behind. So I've counted up which building it would have been. And even now that I'm in the back, so this is where the building would have stood with the railing on top. But the building where Foot Locker is, the back of it does look like it's pretty old. So maybe they just gave it a facelift on the front. But this is definitely a newer building. But that's where the fire escape would have been, where he took Emmanuel Jaques up. And Saul Betesh turned himself into the police a few days later, admitted to what he had done at 51st Division, which was on Shooter Street at the time. I think it's now on Parliament, but I believe it was on Shooter in downtown Toronto at the time. Told the police where to find little Emmanuel, and he was under a pile of wood on what would have been the rooftop up there. And to preserve his body, he was out in the summer sun for a few days. They couldn't take him down the narrow staircase. They had to get a crane to lift him down. They quickly rounded up the other men that were involved. They were on a train to Vancouver, which is in the western part of Canada. They rounded them up very, very quickly. The Portuguese community was outraged by the murder, rightfully so. And they marched on City Hall. 15,000 people marched on City Hall, calling for tougher police procedures and a reinstatement of the death penalty. This murder changed Toronto. Toronto was known as Toronto the Good for so long. And this put such a stain on the reputation of Toronto that immediately the city was cleaning up Yonge Street. Businesses closed right away. So fast. And you gotta wonder what was going through Emmanuel's mind. What was he thinking? He must have just been thinking about the money to help him and his family. So innocent. Not knowing what was gonna happen to him. He's 12 years old. You're not, I don't know. And now we're gonna go to the church where the funeral was for Emanuel Jaques. It's not too far from here. It is rush hour. It will take a little bit of time for me to get there. And then we're gonna stop somewhere else. Okay. Right here is where the funeral was held for little Emmanuel in downtown Toronto. Now he's buried far north of the city, which I thought was odd. But yeah, I found that odd that he's buried in a cemetery not close to the downtown area. But we're gonna go there and we're gonna pay our respects together. Okay, got a long drive ahead of me, and we're gonna go together. You can see at the time that building was just being built when the photo taken of all the people on the street right here where I'm standing. So that's about a 43-year-old building right there. There you are.
Well, there's a sweetness a coming around again. I said I'm gonna take it to you. Yeah, you could have been my only friend. I'm gonna take it to you. Sweetness passed out on the floor. I'm gonna take it to you, honey. That's what they made it for. I'm gonna take it to you. Sweet, man, it ain't so sweet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here I am at Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery in Thornhill, which is a suburb of Toronto. I made it here faster than I thought I would. It's what I call COVID traffic. A lot more people working from home. It's still busy. To come all the way from downtown Toronto up here is far. But like I said, with people working from home, there was not as much traffic as I thought. Now, I'm in the section where Emmanuel is buried, and I know what row he's in. I've got directions from the cemetery that they gave me on the phone. I can't make heads or tails of what I wrote down. Because I knew I'd get here after they were closed, so I wanted to call first and find out exactly where. And it's a big cemetery. It's not huge. It's not one of the bigger ones I've been in, but I'm told to look behind one of these two. I'm not sure which one. She gave me very, very specific directions, and I don't know. You get kind of lost even when you're writing down directions. But these statues here, and it's either towards the mausoleum here or the maintenance building over here, but we're going to find Emmanuel Jaques right now. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So now, little Emmanuel is somewhere along this row, and I'll find him. And right away, that wasn't too difficult. Here's little Emmanuel's grave here. It's nice to see some flowers brought out for him. In loving memory, Emmanuel Jaques, October 8th, 1964 to August 4th, 1977. I'm gonna have to say, just for me personally, of all the graves I visited on my channel and in life other than family members, this is hitting me the hardest. This is, he's only 12 years old. Man. It's sad when any child dies, but when they die in a manner like that, so if you're looking for Emmanuel Jaques' grave and you're in the Toronto area and you want to visit, just come in the front entrance of Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery here in Thornhill. Come up the front entrance, make your first left, then turn right. Section 11 will be on your left. Look for this mausoleum. Count 13 rows from the street, and you'll find Emmanuel Jaques here. Betesh, the main antagonizer, the main culprit, the main criminal, the brains behind the operation. He's still in prison in his 4th decade behind bars. He's in his 60s. And he's on like different websites where prisoners can ask for friends and that sort of thing, pen pals. He's a Dungeons and Dragons aficionado. And I believe a lot of, though he's been taken off a lot of them because of public outcry. He has no remorse. He says, basically, what he describes his crime as just assault. And he did a bad thing once. He's never getting out of prison.
As for the other men involved with the crime, Gruner would be acquitted in the trial and was last reported in 2002 to be living as a homeless person in Toronto. Woods died in prison in April 2003 after being denied parole over 4 times, and Robert Kribs was denied parole in October 2002, 25 years after the murder. It was hard to find any recent information on Robert Kribs, but I'm assuming he's still in prison, and hoping he still is.
So as always, I brought a couple of rocks for Emmanuel, but I also brought something else because he's just a little kid. And just a little Hot Wheels car. I don't know what kind of toys he liked in his life, but something I'm going to leave for him. I'm going to take it out of the packaging and leave it here. Something different. He's just a little kid. So I'll put the rocks down first. Get these weeds out of the way. Clean it up a little. Try to get this out of the box as fast as possible for you. When I was 12, I liked Hot Wheels. I really did. So, leaving the cemetery now. This is a tough one. Rest in peace, Emmanuel Jaques. And I hope his family is, I don't know. I'm sure every day they think of him and it's never going to get easier. 12 years old, 4'5", 80 pounds. I like the idea of his killers still in prison, the two main ones. The death penalty, if that's what his family had wanted, I would have no problem with that when it comes to guys like this. But also, I wish they were just in a small confined room for the rest of their life. I'm talking like the back seat of a car size. That to me seems worse than death. Just sit in this tiny room and think about what you did. You know, or even if you don't think, or if you have no remorse, you're still stuck in that tiny room. You probably pray for death. And hopefully it would take a long time before it came. I hate those men. Peace out. And rest in peace, Emmanuel Jaques.